Day 21, day 16 in the yard. So technically a bonus day for me. Okay, started off the day, got there about 7:30, and a lot of people have been, who are like a week behind me or something like that. They were in my original class. They're asking for help going through pre-trip because they know that I'm like, I'm appreciating the stickler Mark and trying to add things that he says to make sure that I have a good understanding. And when I have a good understanding, and part of it comes from repeating it and telling other people and sharing the knowledge, because, why hoard it to yourself? Always share knowledge. It's never something to be scared of. So anyway, I did that for a little bit, and then Ruben came over and said we were going to be working on parallel parking, starting with the blind side, which is always a good side for me. I don't know why. I can usually put it in the box without too much of a problem. After lunch, we moved to the driver's side. And for some strange reason, I have, even though it's supposed to be easier, doesn't work nearly as easy for me. So I don't know why. I would hit like one cone and maybe have 2 or 3 pull-ups, but that's if I hit a cone. Sometimes I like one time was pretty bad. I came in at too steep of an angle and just could not get it straight for anything. So that was kind of weird. But anyway, so tomorrow is when I'm going to see if my 5 times of doing the alley dock in a way that seemed to make sense to me and that I rationalized yesterday and did not have a chance to practice today worked. I'm going to see if I can remember what we did on the road last week. I had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I was, if I remember correctly, going over the curbs that day. And the last day, I don't think I did. So tomorrow I got to avoid hitting curbs or bouncing over curbs or white lines for at least 45 minutes during the test. 3 people today tested. One of them was someone who went through the program last year and then did not do a retest after she failed. And then she went so long without retesting that her license, her permit expired, which it lasts for like a year. And so she had to go through the process of getting the permit again. But then when you have a new permit, you have to start over again. So if she finished pre-trip or something like that before, she had to start all the way over today. So she didn't do so well. I never knew her. Then there was another guy who made it all the way to the road, to the driving on the road, and for whatever reason kind of froze up when the evaluator, then the DDS employee, said, "All right, merge right." Ignored it. Merge right. Ignored it. "I need you to merge right." And he stopped in the middle of the road, middle of the lane, for whatever reason. No hazards, no anything, just stop in the middle of the road. So that did not go over so well, failed instantly. I mean, geez, you can't just stop a truck in the middle of the road because you know how high the rear bumper is. All it takes is a car not seeing something like that and slamming into you, and the glass is just the rear bumper is just gonna go right through the glass, the windshield, and could kill somebody. So that doesn't go over very well. And the last person failed on pre-trip somehow. No, I take that back. Failed on parallel parking. So one person failed on pre-trip, one person failed on parallel parking, one person failed on the road. So in the last 2 weeks, it's not been good. A lot of people have been failing. 12 people have tested. Only last week, Tuesday, did 2 people pass. 2 people have passed in the past 12 days, and that's ridiculous. Tomorrow, as I'm not going to be testing in Gainesville, I came to find out that the guy that we normally test, that 160 normally test with, who's assigned to 160 is, he's out of town next week. His name is David. So he is, we're going to be going to Between. And I think I have an appointment with someone named Tiffany. I think that's what they told me. And so I got to bring my A game. I mean, regardless, I'd be bringing my A game anyway. The main thing I have to keep in mind is I normally will have gotten into the routine of flying through things like pre-trip. Just go through it. Just, just get it done. Mainly because I want to make sure that I have enough time to do my maneuvers and still get out on the road without timing out. I don't imagine that it's going to be horrible, because even if I were to spend half an hour, let's even say 45 minutes on pre-trip, if I take 30 minutes for the maneuvers, that would leave me 45 minutes on road. I don't want to imagine that it would take me half an hour to do maneuvers and to do either section A, B, or C, and coupling. Coupling I can do in probably 3 or 4 minutes. It's not that big a deal. The in cab I could probably do in 10, if that. And then section A, B, or C, depending on the one, probably 10 to 15 at most. All of those I feel like I got down. All of those I feel very confident in. And then the maneuvers, I don't want to be overly confident going into that, because then I'm going to overlook something or just not pay attention to something I should. A lot of it is in the setup. You have to set up the maneuver, and as long as you line up the truck right, the truck will go where you want it to, usually, as long as you follow the procedure. Man, do I wish I could have gotten a chance to practice alley docking more. I did it like 5 times. And I believe that as long as I don't hit curbs, not curbs, as long as I don't hit cones on the alley docking, I think I'll be okay. The main thing is I have a system down. I just got to do it. That's the thing. Just got to do it and put the truck in the box. I'm pretty much sure that I'm going to get alley docking, because I'm not 100% confident on that. I feel like if it is either driver's side or blind side parallel parking as a specialty maneuver, I feel like I could get, I feel like I could get in there just without a problem. If anything, it might be an extra pull up just to make sure that we're allowed 2 free pull ups and 2 get out and looks. I feel like I could line things up, and if something happens and I don't, and I get off my line and I don't, like for example, when you do parallel parking, you line up, get straight, you turn the wheel to a certain point, then you back up, you turn the wheel to a certain point, you should be pretty much right on this one spot. For some reason, it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it goes a little bit too little, sometimes it goes too much, and if it's a little bit within a couple of feet, I can finagle it. I could back up and angle it the truck a little bit. And what I'm going to do is make sure that I get in that position, because if I don't get in the right position, by the time I'm ready to turn and put in the box, I'm going to pull forward, I'm going to line it up the right way, because I don't want to play. I don't want to start running into cones, get myself, like today, one of the things that was really, really weird, and this has not happened to me in a couple of weeks, is I was lining up, because when you pull out of the box, you basically just line up, and then I was backing up, lining up, and I just was having just a brain fizzle and just wasn't able to line it up. And I finally got to the point where here's the box, and the truck, instead of being perfectly in alignment with it, I was a little bit off. Either a little bit to the front, which means all you need to do is go to the left, and then you just go back to the right to straighten up the trailer, because the truck will start to do this, and then as soon as you pull the trailer over, you have to go back. And for some reason, when I'm in the truck, it just, my brain fizzles and I'm just having a hard time remembering that. I don't know why. But anyway, so you know, if the main thing is, if this is the box and I start to back up to go into the box, if I get on the wrong angle, then I can't do the last little bit without getting all the way on the cones. And then if I start to get on the cones, oh, it's going to be bad. It's just going to pull. It's going to get on the cones again and again and again. And this is where today I had a chance to actually talk with Ruben. I talked to him yesterday, but one of the things, he's like the main guy out there. He's a really smart dude. He's very knowledgeable, and he really does want to see people succeed. He wants to see people get a one and done. All the teachers do, actually. They all really care. The thing is, I haven't had a chance to work with him much. There was one day that he was keeping a loose eye on us because he was watching another group because they were understaffed. There was another day when he walked by and he just kind of watched us for a little bit, but then he went and did something else that were full staff that day. Today, we worked with him pretty much all day. And I asked him, I went over there and I talked to him because the main thing that I really wanted to drive home is that no matter how well prepared we feel, like, it's been 3 weeks, it's been a crash course. Yet he said, he still said, me, Fritz, and Thomas have all been doing really well. He says, because you're manual transmission, you've had more truck time than most people, because most people that go in there are automatics. And so their classes are like seven or sometimes more big in size. And, like Amazon, they only have automatic trucks. So they only want people to drive automatics in the training. They're not going to, they don't want you to do the manual. So that means the classes are bigger. And with a smaller class, you get more truck time, so more time to practice. You also don't test in a day cab. You test in a sleeper. But you get more practice. So I like that. Chose right on doing the manual. Manual transmission, as long, like the mistake that I think that was my interpretation of something Danny had said the first day is he said, shift as quick as you can. Well, me being a stick shift driver for over 30 years, I would try to just, boom, basically you start to pull it out of the gear at the same time you pop the clutch and get it in the next gear. So it's boom, real quick. When you're double clutching, you can't do that. And I found myself stepping on the pedal all the way down. Then the thing doesn't want to go in gear because it doesn't want you to do that. It just wants you to tap it a little bit. Tap it a little bit and shift it out and shift it in the next gear. So jamming the pedal all the way down isn't the way that the thing wants to, the truck wants to shift. And I talked to Ruben today, and I was like, I talked to him about, my experience here with 160 and how I feel like that I chose well. I like the school. I think that I chose the right school. So yeah, I feel like it was a good choice. And I think it was a good fit for me. The instructors, they taught really well. I like the system down. Like, not all schools give you a pre-trip that is a script they want you to get. Granted, that probably annoys the DDS instructors because they hear the same script over and over again, just like we do when we're practicing it every single day. But you know what? You get a script down and you start to learn the words. You start to know the procedure. And I'm sure that means that it sets in, which is good. So all is well there. I'm not nervous about tomorrow. I'm actually excited about it. I think it's going to be great. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be awesome. Looking forward to meeting Tiffany and seeing how I'll do tomorrow. I'm very confident that I'm going to do well I'm going to make it at least through pre-trip. I really want to make it all the way through. I feel like I can as long as I don't go fast. Take it slow, give it the time it deserves. Because if I start going too fast, then I start to speed up for no reason. There's no reason to rush through this. I can easily explain things. I can easily talk through things. I can easily, explain the pre-trip. Doesn't matter if it's A, B, or C. I feel confident in all, and coupling and pre and in-cab. There's a reason why people keep coming over and asking me, because one thing I can do as an instructor is I can break down things. So in teaching other people, you usually teach yourself too. So I would end up, telling people and listening to their pre-trip, and I'd say, okay, you just missed one thing. And they're like, what is it? And then I would point out something like that. And the instructors like the fact that we do that, because they understand that when you work with other people, you learn yourself. So it's not like they say, look, you shouldn't be teaching someone here. It's not like you're a martial arts instructor, and you're a black belt, and you're an orange belt. Why are you teaching the yellow belts how to do stuff? Just you're one belt ahead of them. It's not like that. We're all in the class together. We all support each other. We all work on something. We all catch each other in things. And today I started to regress a little bit, just like yesterday. Yesterday, when it was right before lunch, and I did my in-cab and totally botched up, and Mark literally had tested me on Friday. So the look he gave me was as if I had just kicked his puppy or something like that. He looked at me like, are you kidding me? Are you doing this to me on purpose? Because when I got back in, I think personally, I don't know if you're religious or not. Personally, I think that I am, and that was God sending me a message of saying, look, don't get overly cocky. Same kind of thing with the alley docking. Don't just, because you're starting to get it a little bit, don't start to get overconfident. Don't start rushing through the techniques. Don't that kind of thing. Because today, when I was working, on the parallel parking, I felt really good about it last week and was just like, I got this. I'm not going to need it again. And then, I was a little rough when we were evaluated on it on Friday, and that surprised me. And then it was a little bit rough yesterday too, or earlier today too, just on the blind, on the driver's side though. And then this is when, since I spent a lot of time talking to Ruben, because I was really wanting to pick his mind and pick his brain, because it's the first time I'd worked with him. I was asking him to talk to me a little bit about the procedure and not just the testing or anything, but I wanted to know, like, the maneuvers and why we do certain things the way we do it, because that helps me to have a better understanding of the way the truck moves and why we do things and that kind of thing. And he explained a few things that helped sink a couple of things into my mind. Like, one thing I kept in the parallel parking, and this has been something that's happened almost routinely the entire time, as I swing it back into the box, I almost always would go over, or I would get really snugged up to the cone. And if I didn't get on the cone, I was like right next to it. Well, he said you should be aiming for around 4 feet away when you line up. When you do the lineup and you push into the box, you should be about 4 feet off. I was like, we were told 3. He says, you do that, you're going to be in too close. I'm like, that's usually what happens. He's like, yeah, so back it off to 4. So I did exactly what he said. Guess what happened? I didn't go over the cones. So I told him, I said, it would be great. I said, the biggest regret I think I have in the entire course is that I didn't have a chance to really work with you until like today. And because I've benefited from each of the instructors. Each one of them teaches their own way, the same material, but adds their own flair to it. So it's the same techniques, and they teach it with slight variations. Like when it comes down to the offset, the straight back, and the parallel parking, it's scripted. It's the way, or it's not scripted. It's a technique, a fixed routine. You do it. When it comes down to the alley docking, they bring their own little tricks into it, and there's their own expertise. And that's when I was able to benefit from some of it. But and that's the reason why yesterday I ended up going into the office and talking to Ruben a little bit while he was cleaning up, because I wanted to get his take too. I felt like if I didn't talk to him, I would not get a well-rounded instructor experience. And I really wanted to, because Mark is great, Jason is great, Orlando is great, and Danny is great. All of them are great. And I wanted to be able to work with the boss, Ruben. And I asked him, I said, that's the biggest regret I have about, the entire time, that I've been out there in the yard, 16 days. We're off the board now. Our name was not on the board the first day, and then they added us to the board, and we were on week 1, then week 2, then week 3, and now we're not even on the board anymore. We're kicked out of the nest. So you better know how to fly. But I told Ruben, I said, that was the biggest regret I think I have, is I hadn't had a chance to work with you too, like everybody else, because everybody brings their own ways of wording things and tweaking things. And one person might have said something that said, oh, that really sticks. Another person might have said something else and made something else stick. And Ruben's really intelligent. He has a great way to break things down. So I spent a lot of time the past couple of days talking to him. And when we asked him, he said, you have a smaller group, it's only you and 2 other guys. And, he says, y'all have had a lot more, on the road. You've had a lot more, truck time. You've actually been doing really well. He said, there are people that get ready to test at the very, very end that aren't nearly as good as you guys were at the end of the second week. And it's like, I told him, I said, it doesn't feel that way. It feels like we've just been on a roller coaster ride and just holding on for the ride. And he said, it's a lot of information to get. It's a lot, but y'all have actually done really well. So it's nice to hear. I mean, it's nice to hear that we've been doing well. We've all cared. We've all supported each other. It's been a good group. I'll miss Ian, Fritz, and Thomas after tomorrow. And who knows? I may end up, going into a restaurant at some point and saying, "Wait a second now." Who knows? It's really weird because we've been a very tight little team here the past 3 weeks. All ends tomorrow. Actually, technically it ended today, but tomorrow, one person's not going to be sitting with us in the waiting room at the DDS. One person's going to be out there testing. Then the other one of us is going to be waiting while the other person tests. Then the third of us. That'll be the last time we see each other. Regardless, I am going to tomorrow. I am going to go by. Actually, thinking about it, if I fail the test tomorrow, which I don't want to, I'm going to really focus. I don't think I'll go in. If I pass the test tomorrow, I'm going to show up tomorrow. I'm going to go back to the yard and not to wave the paper around or anything like that, but because I'm going to be happy that we broke the cycle, because they've the thing is, 160 gives you all the tools you need to succeed. There are things that I think that could be better, and I don't think that's an instructor thing. I think the instructor's hands are tied. I think, to a certain degree, it's a feeling I have, like corporate chooses to do certain things. Because even when I was talking to Reggie, I was like, I would like to see if it were me, I would want to see if I were in your shoes, I'd want to see a commerce.160drivingschool.com. And he said, he liked a lot of the ideas I had, but he was just like, I can mention it. I don't know what they'll do. I don't know how, if that will work. I don't know if they'll go for that. And talking to the instructors on the yard, I would overhear that they would have to cover each other and stuff, because I feel like with 20 plus students, they're growing like crazy, but they're understaffed, I think, for the level of instruction that they're giving. I think they need to hire more instructors, but I don't know it's probably kind of like in a school, you have a certain limit to the number of teachers you can have per student. Like you can have one student per 18 teachers at certain ages, one teacher per 20 students at a certain age, one teacher for whatever. There's probably some sort of a rule that 160 has in place, or they don't want to hire. Because I know Reggie really needs an assistant. I mean, he works his butt off, but he really does need someone that can help take some stuff off, like, photocopying things and making some phone calls and handling a lot of business, because the man is working really hard, but he doesn't have an assistant. He needs one, but they won't hire him one because we're not in a state that requires it. It's one of those things where 160 really should allow him to have it, because he is working hard and doing them great. And 160 is growing. It's a 12-year-old school, and yet there's something like over 100 locations. 12-year-old business. Over 100 locations. You could say they are doing some stuff right, but there is a point that I've worked for companies like that too, that have grown really fast and really gotten really big. And one of the biggest things that does not happen when you're a business is you lose sight of the front line. I've worked at Earthlink. I've worked at other places too, and there's been higher ups overhead that seem disconnected. Now, the difference is at Earthlink, for example, I think twice a year they were that every employee that was working in an office had to, in their department, if you were in customer service or tech support or sales, if you were an executive and you did not take calls, you had to Y in. So you had to basically put on something that would just allow you to listen to actual phone calls, and you would hear what the people were dealing with and what they were. I had many people Y in with me. I think that would be a very beneficial thing to a school like 160 to get out on the front lines, the people that are really teaching the students and really getting out there. Shadow, have an executive, spend a day or two in the yard a couple of times a year. Especially if your school is growing really fast, you cannot lose sight of what's going on in the front lines and what people are dealing with when it's an instruction related thing, because the instructors are doing really well. But I can guarantee you it's going to be like every other business out there, that you kill it on the front line, and the executives, watch the business grow, and they get bonuses based on performance and stuff like that. But the people on the front lines aren't getting that, and they're pushed harder and harder and harder for bigger numbers and faster metrics and, whatever else. There's going to be some sort of data. There's got to be some sort of data, like they have to have something for like bragging rights, for example, like, X number of our students pass the CDL. Well, I would hope it'd be a very high number, because people that go through the course, it's not a cheap course. It's $5,000, or unless you take a loan out, and then it's going to be more. But I would hope everybody would pass, or at least almost everybody. Some people are just not going to care, because it was given to them or something like that. But I think it would benefit them. There's one of the things I've been able to do in the past is break down problems and see through issues and try to break things and try to tweak things. Products, for example, I'll see what it takes to break them. I'll see what it takes to tweak something to make it better. And I think, having gone through 160 now, day before the test, two instructors were out today with small groups, because you can only take, a total of 4 students out maximum in these trucks. But when they're doing 20 students, you could easily say, well, your student to teacher ratio is X amount. But the thing is, though, some people require more. That's what Ruben actually said, is that on the, like, we're a smaller group, and so we had a lot more truck time and stuff like that. We were not in as much need as some of the other students that were a part of bigger groups, and they might just have had like maybe a learning because of a language issue or something like that. So he would work with the people that were struggling a little more to help tweak them and get them ready. And that's good. That's fair. I still regret, not working with him until today. But yeah, I really think that the school is a good one. I really think that I chose right going 160. I really hope I do well tomorrow. Some of the people I was working with, one guy today, this is where I'll leave you. One guy I was working with, and it was Ty, one of the original guys in the class that I started with. When he said, "When do you test?" And I said, this is, I think this might have been Friday even. I told him I was testing next week sometime. I didn't think I had a date yet. And he said, "Oh, you're going to pass. You're Alan." I haven't taken a test in over 20 years. Last time I did that, I was in college. This one's a big one. It's a crash course. I mean, hopefully it won't get out there and crash tomorrow, but I want to do well. I'm focused on it. I'm going to slow down, make sure I give things the adequate time that they need, and want to do a good job and focus. Going through the pre-trip, I'm going to just make sure that every single thing, I look at it. What does it look like? What's its function? How would you check it? Or if not, how do you check it? How do you check other things next to it, like mud flaps? You would, check it by making sure that it's, within 6 inches of the ground, and make sure that it's got adequate space from the tire. Things like that. How would you check it? That's what you would check. Comes down to a valve stem, the dual valve stems, for example. You would double check that it's got its cap on there. You would make sure that it is properly mounted and secured, that it's not bent, cracked, or broken, that the cap is installed, that it is inflated to the manufacturer specifications and not less than 100 psi. Things like that. If you don't lose it, you use it. If you don't use it, you lose it. And I want to make sure that I don't lose it. So tomorrow, if I go first, I'll be happy I go first, because that means that it'll be rather cool in the day, coolest part of the day. It'll be early. It'll probably be about the 9-something a.m. hour when I start to do everything. By the time we get on the road, it might be closer to 10. It'd be nice to go first, but if not, I'm going to be going through that pre-trip, thinking over and over again, reading it slowly, going through it all. I'm not going to be sitting on my phone. Either that, or I'll be talking to Mark and asking him questions and stuff like that. We'll see what happens. Anyway. Big day tomorrow. Big day.